I've already got CareLearning open, and I'll go ahead and scroll down here. Yours will look different than mine, but what's important is the Arrhythmia courses, and you may have one or more of these assigned. I'm going to pick basic Arrhythmia just to give the examples. So we'll go ahead and open this up. What I'm really trying to do is go through this newer version of CareLearning, show you a couple things, but then really focus on how to operate YouTube if you're not familiar with it. If you're really good at YouTube, you can skip all this and just dive right in and enjoy the show. So first things first, the CareLearning itself, do you want to resume where you left off? The answer is always yes. This CareLearning has several quizzes in it, more than one, and it tracks your progress. If you say no, it'll start you back at the beginning and erase all of your progress. So always, always, always say yes. Now the layout of this, just to cover it real quick, in the bottom right corner, of course you have your old-fashioned previous, next slide, you can navigate that way. Over here on the left, it also has a menu where you can jump ahead by whole slides if you'd really like to, or go back to a different section if the need be. Keep in mind it keeps track of your progress, so if you skip over stuff, it'll want to go back. I'll skip ahead to resources, and on this resource slide, it talks about what you have attached. So over here in the upper right corner is the PDFs, and you will absolutely need these to do the course. Your handout is here, so you click that, it'll open up a PDF. Please print double-sided. It's a fair number of pages. Your final test is also on here. You'll want to print that out ahead of time, work it out on paper, and then take the final test, which if you look at the bottom left corner is right down there. It's your final slide. All right, so those are the resources. Click the link. This is the big thing here. This entire lecture is on YouTube. You're not going to sit in a class or anything like that. So we'll click on that. It'll go ahead and open up YouTube in a tab. Now here's a couple important things, questions to ask. If you already have a Gmail account, feel free to sign in here in the upper right corner. If you don't, that's fine. You can still use this just as easily. If you're going to use a browser, I strongly recommend using either Chrome or Firefox rather than Explorer. I'm not an Apple user, so maybe Safari works well with this. I don't know, but those are my recommended ones. To get to this lecture here, you have to have, and I'm going to go back, you have to have this link to click from. If you try and Google search the basic Arrhythmia from Mary Lanning, you're not going to find it that way. So here is your playlist, and as you can tell, there's the main video here, but over on the right side, you've actually got several smaller ones, and that's the idea. I made multiple small videos that I then combined into one large playlist. Each of these is got a different length to them. Of course, you can see the number, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, 42 minutes. It's meant for you to come back to more than once. It's highly unlikely you're going to sit and run through all of this in one day, like a traditional class. It should take you a few days of going back and forth between them. And that's the idea. It's meant for you to put it down, pick it back up. So if you click here on this one, it'll start you right at the very beginning. Let's pretend we've got interrupted at work and we need to pick back up where we left off. So I'm going to go ahead and click on interpretation and analysis because that's where I left off at. So as I click this, it goes ahead and spools up, and we're at the very beginning. Important things that I want to talk about is first the layout. This is standard YouTube layout where you've got your video here and the playlist is on the right side. So let's say you're like, oh, dang it, I wasn't on interpretation. Maybe it was sinus rhythms that I was actually on. And so you can even see by these red bars that sinus rhythms was where we were at instead. So I can click on that one instead, and it moves me to the other lecture.
Finally,
now it does start me over at the very beginning, which is fine. The video itself, other important things, you've got closed captioning. And yes, this has got full captioning. It's auto-generated by YouTube, so there's no punctuation and there's quite a few spelling errors, but if you're aware of that ahead of time, it shouldn't bother you as much. This is in HD, so that it plays, you can do two things. One, the quality of the video. Because it's in HD, you can get the best quality possible. Also, this little settings thing has the ability to adjust your playback speed. I realize I speak slowly, and I apologize for that. So if you want the video to play faster, you can actually just do that. Kick it up to 1.5 speed or even double speed if you really, really wanted to. So those are available for you to use as well. Other things about the layout, this is standard layout. If you click theater mode, what it'll actually do is make it more of a widescreen feel, which is what I recommend. In fact, when you're actually viewing these videos, you should be doing it in full screen so it takes up all of the space. And so those are the videos themselves. As I scroll down a little ways, the next important things I want you to know about is here it says basic arrhythmia, sinus atrial rhythm. So that'll help remind you what lecture you're currently watching. And here where it says show more, if you click on that, what you get now is a big old list of numbers and titles. In fact, what I did was I went through and time-stamped every single slide in the lecture so that if you know exactly where you left off, all you have to do is click one of these numbers and it'll take you right there. So let's say I was at work, I got interrupted, and I was learning about atrial flutter. That's what I remember learning on. Well, there's two ways I can get there. Of course, I can just click this number right here, and after a little bit, sorry, my connection speed's a little slow today,
let's talk about
but it pulls up atrial flutter, the slide I left on. In fact, you can see my red bar here is right at 32 minutes and change. The other way, let's say it's like, oh no, it wasn't a flutter, but it was close. If I hover my cursor along the bar here and I move it to the side, it actually shows me the images of what is being discussed, and even you can see my progress a little bit. So you can use this to fine tune a little bit if there was a specific spot or a specific image that you were looking for on here. Other important things, the captioning, as you can tell, I can actually move it around the screen if I want the closed captioning to be somewhere else. Oops, sorry. So you can also move that around. Those are the big things I want you to know. How to use the timestamps to jump around and things of that nature. Signing in, of course, is a bonus. It'll retain your settings a lot better. The other final thing that I want to point out and why I prefer Firefox or Chrome is this setting right here in the upper right. If I click on that, it gives me an option called dark theme. And if you go ahead and select that, what it'll do is it turns your entire background black. It's something that I prefer, but I also think that it makes operating this a little bit easier because then you don't have those bright, that bright white kind of washing everything out. So that's YouTube. That's how you would navigate through that. Back to the CareLearning, something I do want to show you is there's some things called knowledge checks. And so as I advance through the lecture, you'll have one slide to let you know a knowledge check is coming for the anatomy and physiology portion of basic arrhythmia. And now if I click here, it says which layer of the heart is responsible for strength of contraction, i.e. the workhorse. Now, how would you know this? Well, of course, watching the lecture is the primary way, but if we go back to basic arrhythmia and I scroll down to my list of lectures and I find anatomy and physiology, let this load for a quick second. I'm going to go ahead and pause it. If I scroll down and I click on the show more to see all of those timestamps, I'll see right here it says knowledge check 1. If I click on that, it now takes me to which layer of the heart is responsible for the strength of contraction. So what this allows me to do is actually follow along, that when there's quiz questions, I can actually use that YouTube lecture to help reinforce those things if I'm having trouble. So please keep that in mind. And again, you can jump around and forward, but it won't let you do anything unless you actually answer it. So if I go back to layer of the heart and answer it and submit, now I have this lovely green check mark to tell me it's complete and I can navigate around it. All right, so good luck to you. Do your best. Remember, always pick up where you left off when you're using the CareLearning, and enjoy the videos.